Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore is continuing to show defiance in the wake of sexual misconduct allegations. And now it comes as the Republican National Committee has now cut all fundraising ties to his campaign.
Speaking at a Christian revival meeting last night, Moore said the stories of 5 women are simply a political ploy to keep him out of Washington, and that both parties are now teaming up to stop him.
What do you think I'm going to do? Why do you think they're giving me this trouble? Why do you think I'm being harassed by media and by people pushing forward allegations in the last 28 days of this election? Last 30 days it began. After 40-something years of fighting this battle, I'm now facing allegations. And that's all the press want to talk about. But I want to talk about the issues. I want to talk about where this country's going. And if we don't come back to God, we're not going anywhere.
Let's bring in Daniel Lippman. He's the co-author of the Politico Playbook, and he joins us now from our Washington bureau. So, Daniel, the list. Good to see you, man. The list of Republicans calling for Roy Moore to drop out of this race is growing by the day. Even Sean Hannity is saying sort of
24 hours to give us a good explanation.
A good explanation. You know you're really sunk if Hannity's getting involved. But it certainly doesn't look like Moore has any plans to do so. So talk about the options facing the Republican leadership right now.
They aren't pretty. You even saw a Daily Beast report that Steve Bannon says that this is, privately to friends, that this is, crazy, that, he's reevaluating his options since Roy Moore had kind of become the Breitbart candidate over the, campaign against Luther Strange. And the options for Republicans are to continue the pressure campaign against Roy and, try to convince him that if he is even elected, he's only going to serve for a week or so until they expel him. And so when you have basically a unified Senate against him, he could almost count on a pretty unanimous majority of people expelling him once he's seated if he wins. And so those are the Republican options right now. Mounting a write-in campaign would be difficult because you could split the Republican vote and then the Democrat, Doug Jones, could win.
Oh, that's very interesting. You brought up Breitbart, and there are reports now that Breitbart may be backing away from him as well, which I didn't think I would ever see because they don't back down at all. But, speaking of this idea of a write-in candidate, one of the names that Mitch McConnell floated was, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, who's, at times been criticized by the president. Some people wonder what their relationship is like right now. What do you make of that idea of Sessions perhaps being the write-in candidate?
If very few Republicans voted for Moore and then most of them voted for Sessions, then that could hand the election to Sessions. I think the issue is Sessions actually likes his job to some extent. He doesn't want to go back into the Senate immediately. He wants Moore to basically drop out and then then he could maybe mount a write-in campaign. It's also expensive, and very rarely do you see write-in campaigns be successful. There's a reason that candidates' names are listed on the ballot. And so this is not an easy situation for Sessions, too, because he thought he was done with the Senate. He's not the youngest guy. He wants to focus on his law enforcement and immigration priorities in the government right now.
And Daniel, the fact that Roy Moore is not backing down, there was a very strange robocall that was being played yesterday in Alabama. And the call is from somebody pretending to be a Washington Post reporter named Bernie Bernstein. And the accent of the robocall is across, I think, between like Woody Allen and Chuck Schumer. It's super racist. And it seems to be offering people money to come forward with their stories of sexual misconduct from Roy Moore. In other words, trying to suggest that the Washington Post may have paid these women to tell their stories to them. What are you hearing about that, and who might be behind it?
It could be supporters of Moore who are angry that the mainstream media and the establishment in Washington are trying to push out their favorite candidate, their local hero. And he still is a hero to many Alabama Republicans. They don't believe these women. And so this anti-Semitic and racist robocall, I think probably the federal investigators are looking into, see, what's going on here. Is it tied to the campaign in any way? because it's kind of adding to the negativity, the mud that is slinging right now. You see more. He hasn't even denied having relationships or pursuing these women to senators. Sometimes he denies it, but other times he says, well, I can't rule it out. I always ask the mothers for permission. And so that's a bit of an odd situation when you have to ask, you're a 30-year-old guy, and you have to ask the mother of the girl you're pursuing for her permission to date. Maybe you should pick someone else to ask out.
Yeah,
that's an indication that something's a little off there.
Exactly right. We should point out that Marty Barron, the editor of the Washington Post, obviously put out a statement yesterday saying that is not a Washington Post reporter, just in case anybody is wondering.
Right. So listen, before we let you go, we got to ask you about taxes, of course. Senate Republicans say that they have the votes to repeal the Obamacare individual mandate. They are tying it to their tax reform plan. What sort of reaction is that getting on Capitol Hill, though?
I think a lot of Democrats are thinking, they're bringing up health care again, and they're almost glad that that Republicans want to hitch health care and tax together. I was talking to a Democrat running for Congress yesterday, and he was pretty gleeful that that Republicans had floated this idea, because then you could almost get nothing done on either issues, or Democrats could say, why are Republicans again trying to strip down Americans' health care in favor of tax cuts for the rich? And so, and there's opposition in the House too, because they view it as not a full Obamacare repeal, and so it's almost like a milder version of that. But it would save a lot of money for, would find that $300 billion of revenue to pay for this massive tax cut package. And so Senate Republicans are eager to try to put this in.
Politico's Daniel Lippman, thank you so much.